I didn't know if I was ever actually going to make this video. To be honest, I still struggle with all of this. When I started doing this, it was from the beginning supposed to be a personal time machine for me to document what little time I have left with my son before he graduates high school and goes out into the world. But that was also during the pandemic, and I was remote, so the opportunity to go places became easier. So I did. And I made more videos. But I don't want to make a video simply for the sake of making a video. It's insanely time and labor intensive, and it's not cheap. It's actually costing me money because nobody's paying me to do it, and I'm having to pay to go to these places that I'm photographing. But if an opportunity arises, all right. But more than the logistics, it's hard not to feel like this entire venture of doing this shit is just an exercise in vanity. The pursuit of trying to become something of notoriety on social media or YouTube. I just don't have the ego for it. If you read how much these individuals invest into that pursuit, their entire life is consumed with this gamble of content creation. And for what? Like, do you want to be fucking famous on TikTok? So, what the fuck does that have to do with this video? Early 2022, a group of friends had decided that we were going to go to Palm Desert, California. Initially, I was a no-go. Palm Springs isn't really my kind of scene. But then I remembered there's a place about an hour down the road that has always fascinated me. I had no idea this place existed until I came across a video of this wet plate photographer whose name is Ian Reuter. Probably said that wrong. And he was in Bombay Beach with Gary Oldman, who is a fantastic photographer, by the way. And they were taking ambrotypes of some of the residents of Bombay Beach. So I'll go if we can take a day and go there. Okay, great. I'm in. Let's go. So I go and I photograph and I film, and then I go home, send my film out to the Fine Lab, download all my footage. Then doubt starts to creep in and I wonder, what's the fucking point? What does this accomplish? What will this do for me? Do I have anything worth saying, anything worthwhile or substantial that warrants committing it to this medium and putting it on the internet? I still don't know. It's like that running joke that everybody has a podcast because everybody thinks they have something so substantially important to say that everybody else must hear it right now. And we don't always do, and that's okay. You might think you have the most phenomenal idea, but sometimes ideas are better as ideas. Period. But actually, podcast is the perfect analogy for this video. If I started a podcast, yeah, maybe my mom would listen, but I'm not already famous. So my podcast would get lost in the noise of every other podcast that isn't about some true crime bullshit. And then there'd be these diehard podcast people who would say some shit like, oh, well, you're not posting at the right time and you need to do it 3 days a week. And you need to use these hashtags and you need to make reels and you need to use this trendy song that's completely inappropriate for the content you're creating. And it's not going to be trendy next week. When the reality is that we are flooded, oversaturated, and overwhelmed with content. And I think that's the point that I'll come back to. The more this project lingered in my head, bothered me that I didn't know what to do with it. I couldn't figure out an answer that satisfied me enough to make this video. So I sat on it for months and even thought about just deleting all the footage to rid my mind of it. The only thing I kept going back to was the reason I took one film stock with me to this place. It's discontinued and I only have 2 rolls left. This Fuji 400. I wanted to shoot dead film in a dead place. Besides that, the way that film renders tones is just an obvious choice. The first half of the trip was dedicated to exploring Palm Springs. Palm Springs is two things at once. It's exactly what you think it is. It's exactly what it looks like in movies and TV. It's this weird throwback to like Frank Sinatra's Las Vegas that's perpetually stuck in the 60s in this arid-ass corner of Southern California. The coral and blue tones, the golf courses, the old cars. It's almost like this oddly nostalgic ghost town filled with rich people who do not want you there. That's true. Palm Springs is, however, a very obvious division of the have and the have-nots. We stayed about 15 minutes north of Palm Springs, and in a very real but also very fucked up sense, it reminded me of traveling across the American desert Southwest through the Native American reservations. These massive swaths of land that nobody really gives a shit about except for the people that live there. These spaces are bleak, and the term hardship just seems like an obvious understatement. That realization became glaring the farther south we went. I've been fascinated with seeing this place. And yes, there are people who live here. It's hard not to feel like the people who choose to call a place like this home are either running from something or they're probably on somebody's most wanted list. If you look on a map, the Salton Sea, one, it's not actually a sea. It's this artificial lake that was created when the Colorado River was diverted in the early 1900s for agricultural use. It's surrounded by miles and miles of date, lettuce, broccoli, cauliflower, cantaloupe, honeydew, onion, carrot, sweet corn, watermelon. I can't even remember what else. You name it, they probably grow it there. And when you're down there, everything around is fertile and green, except the immediate area surrounding the lake. It's all dead because it's all toxic. You can't swim in it. You can't drink it. The fish are dead. People used to come here on vacation. It was actually a resort destination. There are still old billboards up of people water skiing in the lake. But even though this place really fucking stunk, there's still a few brave, nose-blind souls who call it home. But you drive around, and other than the freight train off in the distance or the semi-truck hauling onions, you don't see anyone. Not a soul. We made our way down to the actual lake, and fuck, I don't think I've ever been hotter in my life. I can only imagine this is what a dead body smells like, and I probably got mesothelioma just from walking around. We drove through the neighborhood of Bombay Beach just to see if we could see anybody, to get an idea of how they lived, but we didn't find a single person. We did, however, find the Bombay Beach drive-in. Weird place, and I mean that in a very creepy way, either like you're being watched or going to get murdered. It was so fucking hot, and it was so long back to our rental that we agreed to take our chances in the only bar in Bombay Beach. And it's clearly where the locals congregate when it's 115 degrees in Cancerville. But I know it's where I'd be, even with its sort of from dusk till dawn charm. Joshua Tree was a short drive north. I've been a few times, and Joshua Tree is, for me at least, this place that occupies a space of, okay, I've seen it a few times. Do I really need to see it again? For others, it might as well have like fucking magical powers because people are drawn to it like it's some pilgrimage they must repeatedly endure. So towards the end of the trip, we went, and it was Joshua Tree. We tried hiking to the Barker Dam, but go figure. Why would there be any water in the middle of a drought? I always struggle with photographing this place. I personally feel like there's only a sliver of time to photograph this place properly, and that's golden hour, blue hour, not high noon. And every fucking time I'm here, it's always high noon. And I only took 2 frames. There's a theme that I'm distinctly cognizant of in making these videos. We're flooded, oversaturated, and overwhelmed with content. I have to ask myself, what value does this bring me? Things are important because we ascribe them value. So if I put all my time, effort, and energy into this, then this must be important. And that's not always true. Things fail. Or maybe they never fail. They just never connected in the first place. Anyone watching this has important shit to do. But if you search for videos of Iceland on YouTube, you will get thousands of results. The likelihood of my Iceland video popping up at the top is highly unlikely. The reality is, there's a lot of content. YouTube is flooded with thousands of videos of Iceland, so maybe I was late to the game, or my videos will never really connect, or my videos are so niche that most people, the casual viewer, just doesn't give a shit. Photography is, for me, an outlet and a means of expression. It's a way for me to remove myself from the world and live inside my camera's viewfinder for just a moment. It's one of only a handful of passions that I have been nurturing in my own way for the last 20 years. I do it for me. There are numerous accounts of photographers whose work is only discovered after they've passed away. Vivian Maier, A woman who shot over 150,000 frames of film and never shared them with anybody until they were discovered only after she'd passed away. She was a nanny. She had a life. She had shit to do. She was an unknown photographer who did it for herself. There are two sides to making videos like this. On one side, it removes me from the moment that I'm trying to capture so I won't forget it. But that's counterintuitive. When you're holding that camera right there, it's tough just to live in and experience the moment. The other side is that there will probably come a day in which I will probably forget, and I want there to be something to reflect upon when I can no longer remember. My grandpa was one of my best friends, and he died when I was in high school. I remember exactly what his laugh sounded like, this full, booming belly laugh. But I can't remember what his voice sounded like. I'll probably make more of these videos, but I'm going to be mindful of what I create and what's worth committing to this medium. Something I can watch when I can no longer remember. Something like this. Or like this.